Daniel Sports Central will be going over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup in the SEC in Week 14, and this one's going to be between Arkansas and Missouri, two teams of which who've actually been halfway decent this season. I mean, on Arkansas side, this has been probably as good of a season as they've had in quite a while. Meanwhile, for Missouri, they're starting to gain up some momentum, and things are looking good for the Tigers moving into this matchup. We're going over a full game preview and prediction on this SEC matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Of course, Arkansas lost to LSU last week, 24-27, being the final score there. That was a tough loss there for Arkansas. I mean, it was very close throughout. It looked like the Razorbacks possibly could have pulled a big win there against LSU. That would have been huge for Arkansas. I mean, that would have given them a 50-50 record. I mean, they would have been 4-4 if they could have gotten a win there, which would have been huge for them. But in the end, it was still a close game, which is really all you can ask for right now. But for Arkansas, this is definitely a team that's very improved off of last season. But for Missouri now, they're 4-3. Missouri's now got a winning record this season. And after a slow start for Missouri, this is actually looking like a pretty good season for them. They shut out Vanderbilt last week, 41-0. So that was a very good win there for Missouri. And honestly, I mean, Missouri's kind of on the verge of being possibly a top 25 team. Like, I consider them to be definitely a top 35 team in the nation right now. They're just kind of on the outside looking in right now. But yeah, Arkansas's 3-5, Missouri's 4-3. Arkansas's got a 2-game losing streak. Missouri's got a 2-game winning streak. So Missouri's got some good momentum heading into this matchup, which will be coming up against a pretty good Arkansas team this season. I mean, Arkansas's definitely looked pretty good this season. I'd say a big part of that is because they got Felipe Franks, which, of course, he's their quarterback, and he's done actually pretty well this season for Arkansas. He transferred in from Florida. Obviously, we saw him play a couple of good seasons at Florida before he transferred out. So all around, yeah, Arkansas's been pretty good, especially having him as their quarterback. This game is to be on Saturday, December 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern in Columbia, Missouri. Spread currently says Missouri by 3. ESPN FPI's got Missouri 60%. And Vegas prediction also going with Missouri here in a close one, 35-31. So all three of our sources are going with the Tigers here. Not much of a surprise there. Obviously, Missouri is looking like the better team in this situation. They've got a lot more momentum. But here's your stat comparison for this one as well. Arkansas's got 25 points per game, 30 points allowed. They got 252 pass yards a game, so that kind of shows how well Felipe Franks has been doing. 142 rush yards per game. And then for yards allowed, they got 248 passing, 179 rushing. So thing is, for Arkansas, is their defense has just been horrendous this season. Like they've allowed pretty much 500 yards per game. Or pretty much 400 yards per game throughout this season, which really is not something that you want to do, especially if you're wanting to be a top team. But Arkansas, I mean, their offense has been pretty good. That's kind of been the bright spot for them this season. It's just the defense right now that's been pretty bad for the Razorbacks. But as for Missouri, they got 24 points per game, 25 points allowed. They got 267 pass yards a game, so that's a pretty good stat there as well. 136 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 227 passing and 121 rushing. So if you compare the stats here, I mean, Arkansas does have a pretty similar amount of yards in comparison to Missouri. It's just the defensive stats that are a lot different here. I mean, on Arkansas side, you've got a lot more yardage as far as passing yards allowed and especially rushing yards allowed. I think Arkansas allows nearly 60 more rush yards per game in comparison to Missouri. So that's definitely something that you got to get fixed up if you're going to beat Missouri here in this situation. But both teams are honestly pretty good this year. I mean, we've seen them improve a ton, especially from the 2019 season, and that also goes for Arkansas. I mean, for Arkansas being in a tough SEC season, and considering they only had like 2 wins last year, this has really not been that terrible of a season for them. Here's some key points for this one. Arkansas is definitely playing a good season right now. There's no doubt on that one. Missouri's got some good momentum as well, so that's going to help them a ton coming into this matchup. I do expect moderate scoring here, though. I think both offenses should be able to put up a decent amount of points here. I don't think it's going to be a shootout by any means, but in SEC terms, this will be more of a moderate scoring game, I think. But how each team would win, I think for Missouri right now, if Missouri can just start off fast like they did last week against Vanderbilt, I mean, there really should not be much of a problem here for Missouri. Like, yeah, this Tiger team right now is looking pretty good, especially on the offensive side too. Like, both offenses are pretty good, so I expect to see a decent amount of points here. But honestly, if we were talking about Arkansas winning here, I think if Arkansas won, it would be a very, very high-scoring game. I think Arkansas needs a good 35 points to win this matchup because their defense is just not going to be good enough, I don't think. Like, once again, Arkansas's got some of the worst stats for defense in the entire SEC, and that's kind of been the problem for them. Like, Felipe Franks has really done a great job with this offense, and honestly, give all credit to him for Arkansas right now. But for Missouri, it's just, honestly, for Missouri, like, they're doing a pretty good job on defense. It's just the offensive part you got to keep hammering down with the offense. But in the end, I've got Arkansas getting the win here by a close one. I think it's going to be very close throughout. Missouri is going to keep it close all the way to the finish. But your halftime score is going to be 17-14, Razorbacks lead. But in the final, 31-28, it's going to be the final score. I think the Razorbacks get the win here, and this is going to be a huge win for them. 4th game of the season that they've won. That already doubles up their win total from last season, which obviously last season was a pretty terrible one for them. But still, it's going to be a big win for Arkansas here. 60% chance of the Razorbacks getting the win, in my opinion. So I'm not really confident that Arkansas gets the win, but I think, once again, Missouri's got a good chance of getting the win here. I think Missouri's pretty much just as good of a team as Arkansas is in this situation. Both teams are decently talented, so I think we do see both teams go back and forth quite a bit here. Once again, though, I've got the Razorbacks getting the win, 31-28 being your final score. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know your score predictions, all of that down in the comments. I appreciate you guys all watching. Slap a like on this one and subscribe as well if you're not already yet, if you want to see more. Then again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you all later.